if they're not paying for the additional treatment that's needed to be able to use these new therapies, the cell and gene therapies, then patients who are intended to use these new therapies decide not to use them. So this lawsuit that was brought by Vertex as a manufacturer of a gene therapy against the Office of Inspector General relates to whether or not they could provide a patient assistance program. And this is important both direct and indirectly for the commercial plan sponsors as well as manufacturers, as it could result in increased costs as well as decreased utilization of these therapies. The decision by OIG to not allow patient assistance, in this case for people with sickle cell disease, could relate to the commercial side in a variety of ways. So in the government programs, they're not paying for the side effects associated with the treatment, and that would enable the use of a therapy. If they're not paying for the additional treatment that's needed to be able to use these new therapies, the cell and gene therapies, then patients who are intended to use these new therapies decide not to use them. So in the example, this Vertex case, patients would end up with fertility problems, and the cost of fertility problems becomes a major barrier to these patients, particularly in a government program. The utilization of these products, if they're not being covered or they're not being used as frequently as intended by the manufacturer in the marketplace, that could decrease production, decrease sales, impact profits on the manufacturer side, and it also can lead to less product available in the market that commercial plans won't be able to access, or in future cases, manufacturers may not decide to even develop and produce these products for the marketplace. Decisions made by government programs to allow patient assistance or not in certain cases could have an adverse financial impact on the commercial employer plan sponsors in terms of higher prices that they would be paying. Manufacturers have to recoup their costs. The other way is around coverage decisions that may be made by the government could influence coverage decisions that would be made by the employer commercial plan sponsors that may be similar or different. And so that may have another financial impact back to the manufacturer as well as to the employer in terms of paying higher costs for those therapeutic products that are being utilized. The result of this and other lawsuits over the years, most of which have been rejected by the courts in OIG in terms of expanding patient assistance, requires manufacturers as well as employer plan sponsors to get more engaged. They need to look at ways in which they can more effectively collaborate with one another. They need to get smarter about what's really going on in the marketplace and understanding that they can't just operate in silos as they have been doing. Every decision made has repercussions and implications to all parties. One of the many ways that both the industry, the manufacturers, as well as employers, as plan sponsors, can be more accountable is not only the transparency that's been talked about, but also looking at more effective collaborations and how they can be working on behalf of the patient who is the plan member. The other way is to look at, well, what are the more important performance measures that will make a difference in the marketplace? And then continue to improve upon that as you would do in any quality improvement cycle approach in how you manufacture a product or how you develop your coverage plans from year to year. There is a significant opportunity to do a better job in addressing risk, and by all parties better understanding how risk is mitigated and managed can go a long way to improving outcomes of health for patients who are plan members, as well as the performance of plan for the employer plan sponsor, and then having products with advanced therapeutics available to the marketplace that will be covered by these commercial plans. If you'd like to learn more about this and other related issues, please listen to our Only Healthcare podcast.